Lucian's gonna read a story about aliens.
Oh, yeah. So I was, I was probably stoned, hanging out in the horse shack in Ramdas's yard, and I was having I was reading this. I've been watching this Netflix documentary called The Pyramid Code. It's all about.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, right. It's all about like the pyramids are these huge batteries.
Yeah.
Right.
Energy,
things, and then the aquifers charge him, and that. And reading Rudolf Steiner. I don't know if you guys have ever gotten to Rudolf Steiner, who's like way far out. They're talking about the Atlanteans.
Yeah.
And the Atlanteans, their heads were larger, so
that's why
their centers were outside of their physical skull, which gave them all the access to full intuition. And then as we evolved, the heads got smaller, which put the center inside the physical skull, which gave us power of reasoning, but took away. Anyway, so I had this kind of thoughts, and it's like, these are the kind of thoughts that people go psychotic on when they get stuck on them, right? So I wrote about it, right? Are we extraterrestrial? I've been wrestling with this concept of humans not being from this planet. This also came about because I saw this book that's called Humans Are Not From Earth. And it's pointing to these 4 factors that determine that humans were actually transported from another planet, right? Humans are not from Earth.
Don't skip this part.
I've been scared to tell anyone. I put Ramdas to bed for a nap after his massage. Just as I was leaving, I felt that it was the time to tell someone about my realization. I was scared of it. I told him seriously, Ramdas, I don't think we're from this planet. Like, really. Learning about Egypt and reading Rudolf Steiner and reading this crystal book. Like, sure, our bodies evolved as animals and are from Earth, but I think at some point there was some sort of extraterrestrial influence that moved into this physical plane. This was my big disclosure. Soul, he said with the utmost understanding. It was a simple answer, one that had me thinking, oh, this isn't such a new concept. Of course our souls are not from this planet. He then led me through a meditation that 2 nights before I had been introduced to in Grist for the Mill. There's this part in Grist for the Mill where he leads people through this meditation of rising out of your bodies, out of the room, out of the planet, seeing the cosmic consciousness coming back down and back into the room, back into your body. And it was crazy because I had been reading this, and then here he was spontaneously leading me through it,
Right.
Days later.
Cool.
Right. So there I was telling Ramdas about my coincidental experiences and my far-out realization, and there he was answering my questions with a far-out coincidence. To be clear, I'm not advocating that Ramdas thinks we are aliens infiltrating
Which he does.
planet Earth.
Maybe.
In fact, he was sure to urge me away from the extraterrestrial part. I then asked, well, isn't the soul extraterrestrial? So I do think we are in agreement here. Now, this is a far-out idea. It's also what we have to realize if we are to talk of soul and spirit.
That's so cool.
What about, Rudolf Steiner talks about the people with larger heads. There's old petroglyphs and these ancient Native American drawings of
you can find
human
it everywhere.
Forms with large heads. What's that all
and
about?
a weird thing is that even in Egypt they found those elongated skulls, and then they find them in South America too, two totally different cultures, different parts of the world having the same experiences, and even the serpent and all these different philosophies can be found all around the world.
There's this book called Navajo and Tibetan Sacred Wisdom that's all about the incredible similarities between the sacred wisdom that comes from Navajo culture and from the Tibetan culture, and they have these ceremonies, these rites, they're totally identical. Yeah. They do the same things.
Do you think it's because we're just tuning into something that exists, or truth is just truth, or do you think it's because there was an advanced civilization at one point that was had this philosophy and sort of maybe broke up with the
I definitely think there was advanced civilization.
I believe in Atlantis.
100%. Have you
absolutely.
Have you read any books by Graham Hancock?
Oh, I love
Graham
Hancock talks a lot about how about 10 to 12, I think more 10 to 15,000 years ago, there was an ancient civilization that was not as advanced as we are now, but very advanced consciously, you know, on some other plane of being, and we've lost that. It just something happened cataclysmically.
What about the pyramids? Like,
exactly.
We couldn't build pyramids today. We don't have the technology to do that.
It's insane.
We don't have the mechanical
and like you said,
technology.
all these occurrences were happening around the world simultaneously, and that kind of sounds like what happens with technology now is we can have things happen around the world simultaneously because we have that instant connection. So there was some form of this somehow in the past that allowed this to happen.
So there's all these drawings in there, the hieroglyphs, right? Yeah. And there's no evidence of fires burning, right? There's no ash, there's no burn marks. It's like there weren't fires in there. Yeah, so that theory. So they have these technologies. They have these relics, these like stone things where they would use water. They would build these batteries called the Baghdad batteries.
Yeah, Baghdad batteries. I heard of that.
And it was like a copper wire wrapped around something, and they used some sort of acidic sort of like fruit juice or something.
Right.
And it would be a battery.
You create power.
Right.
Electricity, essentially.
Yeah, well, how about that guy there was like a British physicist who hiked to the top of the Great Pyramid with a glass bottle with a wet towel wrapped around it and a light bulb in the top.
Yeah.
And I think it was at sunrise when all the wave of electromagnetic energy moves across the earth. And this thing harnessed so much energy at the top of the pyramid that the light bulb exploded. And all these people were like, he's a sorcerer! Ah!
Ancient civilizations can create these technologies and then it get all wiped out, and we create these technologies again. It doesn't stop, you know, it keeps our mind harboring, okay, maybe there's again more out there that we can rediscover or discover newly, recreate.
And I think we are rediscovering a lot of the past.
100%.
Like they're freaking digging up like where is it in Turkey? What's that called? That place, you know what I'm talking about?
Göbekli Tepe.
Göbekli Tepe. Yeah,
it's about 12,000 years old, the oldest civilization we've discovered yet. So it predates pretty much modern archaeology's assessment of how old civilization is by like 5,000 years.
Yeah.
So imagine somebody being like, oh, I think this person's like probably 100 years old, and they're like, no, this person's 1,000 years old. You're just like, it's such a big time gap that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and it's just like...
It just destroys the whole notion of when civilization occurred.
It says that everything that we know is completely wrong.
Yeah.
About how civilization started.
But again, that's the problem with how science can be dogmatic. Is they go, well, this is just an outlier. You know what I mean? This is just one random occurrence.
Sure.
And it's like, well, obviously you're only going to find one civilization because it's 12,000 years old. You know what I mean? It's kind
of we are incarnated from Egyptian, tune into your Egyptian self. And like,
Terence McKenna pretty much calls it the archaic revival.
Yeah, the archaic revival.
It's called the archaic revival. You bringing back those archaic means of existence and discoveries, whether it be through psilocybin.
And I feel like, especially right now, I feel like there's another wave. Not that the psychedelic revolution ever stopped, but there's another wave coming now.
Yeah. But this is,
we kind of talked about that, your acid trip. So you said the first 2 times you took it was bunk.
Yeah.
So what was the third time like? Third time's a charm.
Yeah, and I was at a festival. It was really safe. I was with my friend who had a lot of experience. I was really glad that I was familiar with Ram Dass and be here now. And you know what the experience was like? So I had been meditating, and it was like, I remember I was tripping, and I was like, I'll meditate. You know, I'm gonna try and meditate. And I sat down to meditate, and it's like I couldn't. I was like, my mind is working right now how I'm trying to get it to work when I'm meditating.
Yeah.
You know?
That's so funny.
And I remember being on the astral plane and playing with my friend. Like, he was sitting over there on the other side of our little, like, gnome hut that was just a tent. And we were kind of sitting there, and I was like, here we are. My eyes were closed. Here we are together. It was like, let's see if we can play with this. So I was like, can we play the ball? Can we play ball? So I kind of made a ball, and then all of a sudden we're throwing the ball back for it. I was like, whoa, like, we're doing it. We're astral playing ball. Yeah.
He was aware of it too.
I have no fucking clue what he was aware of it. You know, he was not part of that equation.
I thought you were saying like he was doing it too. I was
hey man, you play astral sketch with me?
He's like, yeah.
That's so funny. My first acid trip was so intense. I literally was like, there was like a wheel.
Yeah.
And I could it was spinning like a time wheel. Like a clock that was just going really fast, and I could touch it, and it would shoot me into like just another place. Like I was an African kid, like running. I was barefoot, and it felt just as real as this. I was running, and I could feel the ground on my feet, like the hardness of the ground, and I was just like, whoa! And then I'd snap back to where I was, and I could reach in again, and I would have some other experience. And it was the craziest thing ever.
That was on acid?
That was on acid. It was acid and MDMA. But it was, and it's actually what is probably what got me into Ram Dass. Not that I was into him already, but like to understand what these people are talking about, because you can listen to them, but it's just words. Like, yeah, you can maybe feel it on some level, kind of feel some connection to something, but to have an actual experience of like these things that all these teachers are talking about is like just solidifies that like there is something more. There is something more beyond my thoughts, and there is something more than what I'm identifying with in this sort of normal state of consciousness.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who have gotten to far out places without acid.
Yeah.
And it's like, I remember talking to Ram Dass about that. I was like, you know, there's this guy, and I was like, oh, he's kind of thinking about it. Ram Dass was like, you know, if he hasn't found it yet, he doesn't need it.
Right.
It's like, he doesn't need it. Yeah. So it's a method.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what he brings up in the beginning of Be Here Now. When he's talking, was it Maharaji who ate the acid?
Yeah, Maharaji, when he gave Maharaji all the acid.
Sure.
And he took it all, and nothing changed. He's like, this guy's, I killed this old guy, this old guy's
oh, God.
This old guy's gonna lose his mind, like, he's not gonna come back to Earth, and he was just hanging out the whole time.
Yeah.
Like nothing.
That's one of my favorite stories.
Like,
he comes out of the blanket like, he's like, oh no, I broke Maharaji, I killed my guru.
I think Ram Dass probably eventually had the same realization. I think it was an initiation for me to like, because I never would have been here without those experiences.
Yeah.
Like that was an initiation for me to be like, okay, so now I get it. I understand something now.
What's kind of interesting too is I think everybody gets to anybody who does get to do psychedelics gets to a point where they no longer need to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not really like you take it and you're like, this is my last time ever. It's just you kind of get to a point where you're like, I don't need to take it anymore.
And I'm like such a Terrence McKenna fan that like I was always against that. Like, no, there's like psychedelics are the way.
Yeah.
But now that like I'm understanding life from a different perspective now, and psychedelics were a big help from helping me step back and view it from this way, and I'm seeing that I don't really need them anymore.
Yeah.
I think I still will use them. I'm still gonna go to Peru and do ayahuasca and all this stuff, but like, yeah, you don't need it. And I feel like you can't even process the experience without having some sort of practice already.
Yeah.
Like you're just wasting it if you're just, if you're not sort of in tune with higher parts of yourself. It's just like, the colors are cool.
A good way I like to like...
Music sounds cool. Food tastes weird.
And Ram Dass talks about that in Grist for the Mill when he's like, I cannot now say that I'm either taking acid or not taking acid.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not currently taking acid, but I cannot say that I'm currently experiencing LSD or not experiencing LSD, because it's just like smooth.
Life kind of...
The stories of him and Timothy are just chugging like vials of acid, like Jesus Christ.
Well, like at Millbrook. So at Millbrook, there was a time when they divided. That was in New York at this mansion, right?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
So there was this point at Millbrook when there was the house, and it was this kind of communal living situation, and then there was the tennis house, which was this kind of side house next to the tennis courts, and that was the Stay High people, which was led by Ram Dass at the time. So he was basically like, people would go to this house and just be high for months. And other people would take care of them. They would bring food, they would do their laundry. So my understanding is that experience was what drove Ram Dass to go to India when he was like, had been taking, 300 mics of acid every 4 or 5 hours for 30 days. And he was just, he could have killed him and
they talk about doing 10-day meditation retreats.
That's terrible.
That's so much.
And after that, he was like, okay, this isn't it. This isn't what I'm looking for. So he wanted to go find somebody who knew what the hell this stuff was.
Was that his intention, going to India to try to find...
Yeah, that was part of it. Yeah, he wanted to go see if anybody could tell him what this substance was.
Yeah, because I remember him saying I was having these experiences, and I pick up the Tibetan Book of the Dead and realize that they've been writing about it for thousands of years.
Yeah, and that's how I felt when I picked up the Bhagavad Gita for the first time.
The Bhagavad Gita is a map of the psychedelic experience.
But it's also a map of modern science. That's the crazy thing. When you read it, it talks about basically entanglement and that everything is connected on an atomic level, and that's all stuff we've been discovering in the past 100 years. This book's like, no, we already know that.
Totally. Oh, that's all old knowledge. We're like a
just
child discovering an orange, being like, it's so new, and it's like, no, it's
no, it's just hung on that tree out there for like a whole year.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been there forever.
And all the indigenous knowledge is like, yeah, we know.
Yeah,
like come on, we've been trying to tell you, and you've been shooting us.
So what about, Elon Musk? You ever heard of Elon Musk?
Sure.
What do you think about that?
SpaceX.
You gonna go for it? We should send Ramdas up there.
No, man, he's
Ramdas,
tired.
go see what the Martians are up to.
He's 85. He just wants to pet his cat and read his books.
If they offered you to be on the first communal ascent to Mars, to be the first civilization living on Mars, would you go?
No.
You stay here?
God, no. No
I would
way,
be so
man.
depressed.
It would be tough up there, yeah.
Or it'd be sweet. Who knows? It might
Here's
just be
the thing.
it might be paradise.
If
Hot alien
aliens
girls.
showed up right now and were like, "Hey, we're going to form the new
We're gonna terraform
paradigm.
Mars.
Yeah, will you come with us? But you have to go right now, and you will never see your loved ones again." Would you do that?
No.
No.
That's
Me
a
either.
question.
I mean, I would like to say.
Yeah,
I
right.
would.
No, you can't ask any questions.
Jeez.
I would
It's gonna
like
be
to.
yes or no.
Yeah, yes or no?
Oh man. Then you gotta trust the aliens. You think aliens have ever visited us here? From a different planet?
Aliens ever visit? I don't know, man. Aliens.
But if we are aliens from another planet, that means we already visited us. And we're still here visiting.
I like to think of technology as an alien, as like it's an interdimensional being that is harnessing our energy to build itself here. Whoa. Right?
Whoa.
Isn't that cool? To
Whoa.
think about like it's just like it keeps trying to like the cell phones and like everything is like it's hard using us to build itself into this dimension.
Until it can take over.
Yeah, until it takes over, then it's just
Like,
gonna
no,
be.
it's like, no, integrate yourself with us.
Then come on. Give me your energy.
Delete.
Yeah. Goodbye.
For me, that just takes me away from my own experience
Yeah.
of like, how am I doing, and how are
Dude, you're
we?
gonna be in a robot in a couple years, so you gotta get used to it.
I don't know about that. Okay.
This is a question I've been trying to dig into this myself, and I just don't know how I feel about it. So is it? Maybe this is the wrong language to use, but it's like the only way I can describe it. Would it be a higher philosophy?
Higher.
Yeah, like a more. I mean, it's hard. Language is
Okay,
so.
all right,
Okay, so
let's
would it be
go
a
with that.
higher philosophy to be like to realize that you are one with everything and live through that, or to realize you're one with everything and then go back to the individual?
Yeah, man, you gotta go back to the individual. Like,
That's
okay,
the
so
path.
we talk about Maharaji. We talk about the big Maharaji and the little Maharaji. I've been talking to Ramdas about that, like the big Ramdas, because we're sitting at the table one night. I'm like, we're gonna go to Ojai and we're gonna learn your teaching. We're gonna learn the teachings of Ramdas, and he
Yeah.
was kind of like,
Ugh.
and I was like, no, not you, Ramdas.
Yeah.
Which is, it's not like you, like, what are you doing? So it's hard to describe, but right, you get it, like big and
Yeah.
little. I think it's both.
Yeah, it
it's-
definitely is both.
You gotta do, and it's like where Ramdas says, like, the ultimate thing I can share with you is to exist simultaneously
Yeah.
in multiple dimensions.
Yeah.
I
So
think
to
coming back
know
out
that
of it,
you are God, to
Yeah.
know like we are cosmic consciousness, and what can I do about it? I can love you, and I can take care of my body, and I can eat well, and I can sleep right, and like if I'm not doing all that, then I'm useless to the world, and if I'm useless to the world, then my spiritual growth is for shit.
Yeah, it's pretty much deciding to embrace your humanity. I mean, I think it's easy once you realize something to be like, all right, I'll just sit here and be with it all day. But it's more, actually living out the human life to come back and be a human and act as a human and do human things to help other people versus, just sitting by yourself.
And not to just do the human thing, which is to like make money, eat, and have sex.
Exactly.
Which are all great.
Which are all great, and those are the methods to what's going on we can't really perceive level.
Yeah.
Channel 1.
Just to know, right, exactly, channel 1.
That's the main rift between Theravada Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism.
What?
What you just said. So the process of, do I attain enlightenment and sit in my enlightenment, or do I attain enlightenment and then come back to help others attain that as well? So
Yeah, we've talked
Theravada-
about it before, and you
and
say
that's
that's
why it's
the
split.
Bodhisattva.
Yeah, the Bodhisattva vow, and that's kind of why it's split. Is Theravadas go, no, you attain your enlightenment and you be in your enlightenment, right? Because if you're sitting in your enlightenment all day, it'll help others see that you're sitting in your enlightenment and they can do it.
Right.
That's kind of like watching somebody be a professional.
Right.
It's like when we look at Ramdas, and he just is like,
Yeah. Whereas Mahayanas, it's called the large vessel, the large wheel, essentially. It's like, no, you go into what your bodhisattva vow is to attain this enlightenment, and then you come back and you guide others to this place of being too, right? And that's kind of a better way to help the world. Is you know, it just.
Well, I think in practice they're not different.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and it's like, okay, so in practice that looks like I have a really incredible experience and I get way far out, and then I'm like, cool, like, fuck all you guys, I'm gonna be out here. Like, no, nobody would say that's the way to go. It's like, oh, cool, now I'm gonna go back and be a better person because of it and try and help my people live through it, live because of it. Yeah, in practice, I mean, of course we don't, that's total spiritual materialism, is just to, like, get far out and stay far out. And
it's like, I can hold on to this far outness forever.
Yeah, hold on to it, and like, it's like trust in God and tether your camel. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and balance. Like sometimes we get more out there, and we kind of go away from our worldly things, and you know, we go to the mountain, how they say. We go into the spirit world, and we commune, and then you can't stay out there. Humble. You come back to the village, and you share your story. You share.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's what's so interesting about the psychedelic experience and why it was so powerful, is because it kind of forced you want to tell about it. You know what I mean? I feel like there's very few people who would just go into the psychedelic experience and just keep.
I couldn't shut up after.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a force.
I was like on forums talking about it with people and stuff. Like, holy shit! Like, I just experienced this.
You need to know this.
Yeah, and everyone's like, yeah, dude. Like,
it's like your heart's like exploding to get that information out there.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, you want to be seen for something that doesn't fit anywhere. It's like, is this real? Was this real? Yeah. And right. That's great. And I think it's great that there's people like Ram Dass, and now there's forums online where you can go and be like, I had this crazy thing happen. Am I normal? And everyone's like, yep, like me too, buddy.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably long enough, I think.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
2 videos.
Yeah, cool.
Easily. That's fun.
Cool. So, thanks for watching. My name's Dakota.
I'm Coy.
I'm Lucian.
And
we will talk to you guys later.
Reconnect with love. Express that out into the universe. Everything will be okay. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
So cool, you guys sit around.